Welcome to the Eat This Book podcast. I'm Michael Whitworth. Each day we take a small piece of scripture and we sit with it. Not a quick snack that disappears before lunch, not a chore you check off of a list, but rather a meal meant to be savored. So pull up a chair. Let's eat. 2 full years. That's how long Joseph waited after the cupbearer was restored. 2 years of waking up in prison, wondering if today would be the day. The dreamer who interpreted dreams, sitting in a dungeon, watching the door that never opened. And then Pharaoh dreamed. The king of Egypt stands by the Nile in his sleep. 7 cows come up out of the river, sleek and fat, grazing in the reed grass. And then 7 more emerge, ugly and thin, gaunt in a way that disturbs even within the dream. The thin cows eat the fat cows. Pharaoh wakes up. He falls asleep again. A second dream. 7 ears of grain, plump and good, growing on a single stalk. Then 7 ears, thin and blighted by the east wind, sprout after them. The thin ears swallow the plump. Pharaoh wakes troubled. He knows he's seen something. He just doesn't know what. In the morning, he summons every magician and wise man in Egypt. None of them can interpret. Egypt had an entire professional class devoted to dream interpretation. Scribes trained in the sacred texts, skilled at reading omens. Pharaoh had the best minds in the ancient world at his disposal, and none of them could tell him what the dreams meant. Maybe God was closing mouths so he could open one. The wise men of Egypt fail precisely so a Hebrew prisoner can succeed. Then the cupbearer remembers. 2 years too late, his memory stirs. He tells Pharaoh about the young Hebrew in prison who interpreted dreams for him and the baker. Everything happened exactly as he said. Finally, after everything, the pit, the slave market, Potiphar's house, the false accusation, the forgotten silence, finally someone speaks Joseph's name to Pharaoh. They bring Joseph out of the dungeon, shave him, change his clothes. In a single morning, he goes from prisoner to Pharaoh's presence. The speed is disorienting. After years of nothing changing, everything changes at once. That's often how God works. Long stretches of waiting, and then sudden eruption. Pharaoh tells Joseph he's heard that Joseph can interpret dreams. Joseph's response, "It is not in me. God will give Pharaoh an answer." He's been in prison for years. He hasn't become bitter or self-promoting. He still points away from himself. This is the same man who told the cupbearer and baker that interpretations belong to God. Suffering has not corrupted his clarity. Pharaoh recounts the dreams, and Joseph interprets them without hesitation. The 2 dreams are one. God is telling Pharaoh what he's about to do. 7 years of abundance throughout Egypt, followed by 7 years of famine so severe the abundance will be forgotten. The dream was repeated because the thing is fixed. It will happen soon. But Joseph doesn't stop at interpretation. He offers a plan. Appoint overseers to collect 1/5 of the produce during the good years. Store the grain, build reserves. When the famine comes, Egypt will survive. Joseph isn't just a dreamer, he's an administrator. The same competence that made him successful in Potiphar's house and in prison now emerges in Pharaoh's throne room. He's been preparing for this moment for 13 years without knowing it. Pharaoh's response is immediate. Can we find a man like this in whom is the Spirit of God? Since God has shown you all this, there is none so wise as you. You shall be over my house. Only regarding the throne will I be greater. In a single conversation, Joseph goes from prisoner to prime minister. Pharaoh removes his signet ring and puts it on Joseph's hand. Fine linen, a gold chain, the second chariot, officials crying out before him, "Bow the knee!" The dreams of Joseph's youth, the sheaves bowing, the stars falling at his feet, are beginning to come true. Not in the way he imagined, not in Canaan with his brothers, but in Egypt, with a nation prostrating before him. He was 17 when his brothers threw him in the pit. He's 30 now. 13 years between dream and fulfillment. Joseph at 17 couldn't have administered a nation. Joseph at 30 had been shaped by suffering into someone who could. Pharaoh gives Joseph a new name and an Egyptian wife. He's being absorbed into Egypt. New identity, new family, new power. He's becoming something his father wouldn't recognize. And yet, he hasn't forgotten who he is. When his sons are born, the names tell the story. Manasseh, God has made me forget all my hardship. Not amnesia, but release. The bitterness could have consumed him. The resentment could have defined him. God allowed him to let go. Ephraim, God has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction. Not fruitful after affliction, but in it. Egypt, the place of slavery, accusation, prison, has become a place of blessing. The names are theology. Joseph is processing his story through what he calls his children. The 7 years of plenty come, just as Joseph said. The earth produces abundantly. Joseph gathers grain like the sand of the sea, so much they stop measuring. Then the famine begins. The plenty is forgotten. The land withers. People cry to Pharaoh for bread, and Pharaoh tells them, "Go to Joseph." The famine spreads beyond Egypt. All the earth comes to buy grain. The whole world, desperate and hungry, lining up before Joseph, including, eventually, 10 brothers who once threw him in a pit. But that's the next chapter. Here's what I think we should savor from this passage. First, the wait can end suddenly. Years of silence, then a summons in a single morning. God's timing doesn't move gradually toward breakthrough, it erupts. Second, faithfulness in obscurity prepares you for visibility. Joseph administered Potiphar's house, then the prison, then Egypt. Each stage trained him for the next. The years that felt wasted were actually preparation. And third, you can be fruitful in the land of your affliction. Ephraim's name is the testimony. The location of your pain can become the location of your purpose. If you've been waiting longer than you thought possible, if the silence has stretched into years, this passage says your morning may be closer than you think. Joseph waited, and then one day, everything changed. If you're wondering whether God can redeem the place that wounded you, whether affliction can ever become anything good, this passage says yes. Joseph named his son Ephraim, fruitful in affliction. The testimony is possible. Next time on Eat This Book, the famine drives Joseph's brothers to Egypt, and they bow before him without knowing who he is. The dream comes true, but it doesn't feel like victory. Join me in Genesis 42 as guilt resurfaces. A test begins, and Joseph listens from behind a turned face. Thanks for eating with me. Until next time, may the word dwell in you richly.